The night everything started, I almost didn't answer the phone. It was nearly midnight, and I was half asleep on the couch with the TV still playing some late-night reruns. My girlfriend, Emily, had fallen asleep earlier in the bedroom. We'd had a quiet evening, takeout, a movie, the usual routine. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would have made me think my life was about to split into a before and after. Then my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I expected it to be a spam call or maybe a work message. Instead, I saw the name, Sarah. Sarah was Emily's best friend. That alone made it strange. Sarah had never called me before. Not once in the 3 years Emily and I had been together. If she needed something, she always texted Emily directly. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But something about seeing her name on my screen that late at night made my stomach tighten. I answered, "Hello." There was silence for a few seconds. Then Sarah spoke, her voice quiet and tense. "Hey, is Emily there?" "She's asleep," I said. "What's going on?" Another pause. "You're alone right now?" The question felt odd, but I glanced toward the hallway anyway. "Yeah. What?" She let out a shaky breath. "I shouldn't be calling you," she said. "But I don't know what else to do." My chest tightened. "What's wrong?" For a few seconds I heard nothing but faint background noise, like she was outside somewhere. Then she said something that immediately made my pulse jump. "I need to tell you something about Emily." My first instinct was confusion. "What about her?" Sarah hesitated again, like she was fighting with herself. "If I tell you this, everything between you two might change," she said. "Maybe forever." At that point, my mind started running through possibilities. Cheating, maybe? Some kind of secret? But even then, I told myself I was being paranoid. Emily and I had a stable relationship. We weren't perfect, but we trusted each other. Or at least I thought we did. "Sarah," I said slowly, "just say it." Her voice dropped even lower. "I think Emily is lying to you about where she's been going at night." The words hit me like cold water. "What? She told you she's been working late this month, right?" I sat up on the couch. "Yeah. Her project deadline." Another pause. "I don't think that's true." I frowned. "Why would you say that?" Sarah exhaled again, this time sounding frustrated. "Because I saw her." "Where?" "Downtown," she said. "At a bar." That didn't make sense. Emily barely drank. She hated loud bars. Most nights, she'd rather stay home, watching documentaries, than go out anywhere. "You probably saw someone who looked like her," I said. "I didn't," Sarah replied firmly. "It was her." I rubbed my face, trying to process what she was implying. "So she went out one night." That's not exactly a crime. She wasn't alone. That sentence hung in the air. My chest tightened again. Who was she with? "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "Some guy." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Emily had told me she was working late 3 nights that week. I even remembered the tired look on her face when she came home, the way she said her boss was pushing everyone hard because of the deadline. And now Sarah was telling me she'd been at a bar with another man. "This doesn't make sense," I said quietly. "I know," Sarah said. "That's why I didn't say anything the first time." "The first time?" My heart skipped. "Yes." A long silence filled the call. "How many times did you see her?" I finally asked. Sarah hesitated. 3. The number hit harder than I expected. 3 separate nights. 3 times Emily had told me she was working late. I stared at the dark hallway leading to our bedroom, where she was sleeping peacefully. "You're sure it was her?" I said. "I'm positive." "And you're sure she was with the same guy?" "Yes." Something heavy settled in my chest. "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. Sarah's voice softened. "Because tonight was different." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" Another pause stretched across the line. Then she said the sentence that made my stomach drop. "Because tonight I followed them." I didn't speak for a few seconds after she said that. "You followed them?" I finally asked. "Yeah," Sarah replied quietly. My mind struggled to catch up with the conversation. Nothing about this felt real. Just an hour earlier, I had been half asleep on the couch thinking about work the next day. Now Emily's best friend was telling me she had been secretly watching my girlfriend. "Why would you follow her?" I asked. "I wasn't planning to," Sarah said. "I was leaving dinner with some coworkers. The bar was across the street from the restaurant. I just happened to see Emily through the window." I rubbed my temples, trying to stay calm. "She was sitting with the same guy," Sarah continued. "The one I told you about before. Dark hair, maybe early 30s. They looked close." "Close how?" I asked. Sarah hesitated. "Like a couple." The words sat heavily in my chest. Emily and I had been together for 3 years. We lived together, talked about moving to a bigger apartment next year, even mentioned marriage a few times. Our life wasn't dramatic or chaotic. It was stable, predictable. And now Sarah was suggesting that Emily had another relationship happening behind my back. Maybe they're just friends, I said. I thought that the first time, Sarah replied. And the second time. But tonight, it didn't look like that. My grip tightened around the phone. What happened tonight? I stayed across the street for a while, she said. I know it sounds creepy, but something about it didn't sit right with me. Emily had told me earlier this week that she was buried in work. She said she hadn't slept properly in days. That was exactly what she had told me too. So I waited, Sarah continued. They were inside for about an hour, laughing, drinking. Then they left together. I felt a slow pressure building in my chest. Did they leave in separate cars? I asked. No. The single word landed like a stone. They walked, she said. Where? Toward the parking garage 2 blocks away. I closed my eyes for a moment. What happened after that? Sarah was quiet for a few seconds. I followed them, she repeated. Not right behind them. I stayed across the street. Why? Because something about the way they were acting didn't feel normal. Normal how? They were holding hands. The words made my stomach twist. I thought about Emily sleeping in the other room. The woman who kissed me goodbye every morning before work. The one who texted me pictures of our dog when I was late coming home. Holding hands with someone else. That doesn't mean anything, I said, though my voice sounded weaker now. Sarah didn't argue. They got into the parking garage, she continued. I waited outside for a minute. Then I went in. You actually followed them inside? Yes. My mind struggled to picture Sarah doing that. She was usually the calm one, the responsible friend who planned Emily's birthday parties and reminded everyone about reservations. Did they see you? I asked. No. I stayed far enough away. My chest tightened again. Sarah, I said slowly, what exactly did you see? For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she said something that made my pulse spike. They didn't go to their cars right away. What do you mean? They stopped near the elevators. The silence on the line grew heavier. And I asked. They kissed. The word echoed in my head. I felt something hollow open in my stomach. Are you sure? I whispered. Yes. The room suddenly felt smaller. Maybe you misunderstood, I said. Maybe it was just. It wasn't, Sarah interrupted gently. It wasn't a friendly hug or something quick. They were kissing like people who had done it many times before. My chest felt tight. I tried to imagine Emily doing that, but my brain kept rejecting the image. This doesn't make sense, I muttered. I know, Sarah said quietly. I stared at the hallway again. Emily was maybe 20 feet away from me, sleeping peacefully, while I was on the phone learning about a version of her I didn't recognize. What happened after that? I asked. Sarah took a breath. They got into his car. My heart thumped harder. And then, they drove away. Did you follow them? There was a pause. Yes. My pulse spiked. For how long? About 15 minutes. Where did they go? Her answer came slowly. To a hotel. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. A hotel. I repeated. Yes. The word echoed in my head like a dull alarm. That's not possible, I said automatically. But even as I spoke, the certainty in my voice was fading. Sarah stayed quiet for a moment before continuing. I parked across the street, she said. I didn't want to get too close. My heart was pounding now. You're absolutely sure it was a hotel? Yes. Maybe they were meeting someone there, I said quickly. A work thing. Or a friend. Sarah didn't respond right away. Then she said softly, it didn't look like that. I stood up from the couch and started pacing across the living room, trying to burn off the nervous energy building in my chest. What do you mean? They didn't look like people meeting someone, she said. They walked in together. That still doesn't prove anything. I know, Sarah replied. That's why I stayed. A cold feeling crept through my stomach. You stayed? Yes. For how long? About 40 minutes. My chest tightened. And then, I asked. They didn't come back out. The words felt heavy. So you just assumed they got a room? I asked, my voice sharper now. I didn't assume, Sarah said quietly. Another pause. What does that mean? I went inside. I stopped pacing. You what? I know it sounds crazy, she said quickly. But I couldn't just leave without knowing. Not after everything. My head spun. Sarah, I just went into the lobby, she said. I wasn't planning on doing anything else. I just wanted to see if they were still there. And her voice dropped again. I saw them at the front desk. My stomach twisted. What were they doing? They were checking in. The sentence landed like a punch. For a few seconds, I didn't say anything. I just stood there in the dim light of the living room, staring at the floor. Emily checking into a hotel with another man. The thought refused to settle in my mind. It kept bouncing around like something unreal. Maybe you misunderstood what was happening, I said weakly. I didn't, Sarah replied. You couldn't hear what they were saying. No, she admitted. But I saw the receptionist hand them a key card. Silence filled the call again. I tried to think logically, to find any explanation that didn't involve betrayal. But every possibility felt thinner than the last. Why didn't you tell me before? I asked finally. Because until tonight, I wasn't completely sure, Sarah said. The other times I saw them, they were just at the bar. I didn't want to destroy your relationship based on something that might have been innocent. Her voice trembled slightly. But tonight, there's no way to misread that. I leaned against the wall, suddenly feeling exhausted. What room? I asked. I don't know, she said. I didn't stay long after that. Where are you now? In my car. Still near the hotel? Yes. My brain started racing again. The hotel. Emily. Right now? The thought made my chest tighten painfully. What hotel is it? I asked. Sarah hesitated. Why? I just want to know. You're not thinking about going there, are you? I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to stay exactly where I was and pretend this conversation had never happened. But another part of me felt like I was suffocating with unanswered questions. Tell me the name, I said. She sighed quietly. It's the Lakeview Suites on 8th. I knew the place immediately. It was about 15 minutes away. A simple business hotel. Nothing fancy. My mind began forming an idea before I could stop it. You're going there, Sarah said. I don't know yet. Don't do something you'll regret, she said quickly. I'm not planning on doing anything stupid. That's what people say before they do. I ran a hand through my hair. What would you do? I asked. There was a long pause. Then Sarah said something unexpected. I'd want to know the truth. I looked toward the bedroom again. Emily was still asleep. At least that's what I had assumed. But now doubt crept in. What time did you see her at the bar tonight? I asked. Around 9. My heart skipped. Emily had told me she'd be working until almost 11 tonight. But she had come home earlier than that. Just after 10. Tired. Quiet. Kissing me on the cheek before going to bed. Sarah, I said slowly. Yeah. When exactly did you see them check into the hotel? She thought for a moment. A little after 10. My stomach dropped. Because Emily had walked through our front door at 10:30. For several seconds, neither of us said anything. The timeline didn't make sense. Sarah had seen Emily check into a hotel a little after 10. But Emily had walked through our front door 30 minutes later. Unless there was some explanation neither of us understood, one of those things had to be wrong. Sarah, I said carefully, are you absolutely sure about the time? Yes, she replied. I checked my phone when I got back into the car. It was 10:12. My heart pounded harder. Emily had come home at 10:30. I remembered clearly because I had glanced at the clock when the door opened. That's impossible, I muttered. What do you mean? She came home at 10:30. Sarah went silent. Are you sure? She asked. Yes. You actually saw her? Yes. Did you talk to her? Of course, I said, my voice tightening. She came in, said she was exhausted, kissed me, and went to bed. The silence on the phone grew heavier. That doesn't make sense, Sarah whispered. I know. I ran the timeline through my head again. If Sarah saw Emily check into the hotel at 10:12, there was no way she could have been back at our apartment by 10:30. Even if she ran the entire distance, it would still take longer than that. Unless Sarah had made a mistake. Or, a thought crept into my mind that made my stomach twist. Sarah, I said slowly, how far away were you when you saw them at the desk? Maybe 20 feet. Could you see her face clearly? Yes, she said. It was Emily. Did she see you? No. I leaned back against the wall, trying to calm the storm building in my head. Maybe Sarah had misread the time. Or maybe the woman she saw only looked like Emily. But then again, she said she had seen them together 3 times already. Wait, Sarah said suddenly. What? You said she got home at 10:30. Yeah. And she told you she was working late tonight? Yes. Sarah hesitated. When did she leave for work this morning? 8. And she was supposed to be at the office all day? Yes. Another pause. Something feels off, Sarah said. No kidding. I mean beyond the cheating part. What do you mean? I mean the timing, she said. It doesn't add up. My chest tightened again. What are you getting at? Maybe she didn't stay at the hotel. Sarah said slowly. But you said, I saw her check in, she interrupted. But that doesn't mean she stayed there long. The idea made a strange kind of sense. You think she left right after? Maybe. But why would someone check into a hotel just to leave 10 minutes later? I don't know, Sarah admitted. Neither did I. The more we talked, the more the situation felt confusing instead of clearer. I looked toward the bedroom again. Emily was still asleep. Or at least she hadn't come out yet. Everything in our apartment looked normal, quiet. But suddenly the normality felt fragile. What if you're wrong? I said. I wish I was, Sarah replied. You might have seen someone who looked like her. I've known Emily for 8 years, she said gently. I'm not going to confuse her with someone else. I exhaled slowly, then explained how she got home 20 minutes later. I can't. The silence stretched again. Finally, Sarah spoke. There's something else. My stomach tightened. What? I didn't tell you earlier because I wasn't sure it mattered. Just say it. The guy she was with tonight. I've seen him before. Where? At Emily's birthday party last year. My mind tried to search through the memory. There had been a lot of people there. Co-workers, friends, neighbors. Do you remember a tall guy with dark hair? Sarah asked. Maybe. He introduced himself as Daniel. The name didn't ring any immediate bells. He talked to Emily for most of the night, Sarah continued. I remember because a few of us joked about it later. Why? Because he seemed very interested in her. My chest tightened. And Emily? She didn't seem uncomfortable, Sarah said quietly. Another silence filled the call. So you think this has been going on for a year? I asked. I don't know, Sarah said. But tonight definitely wasn't their first time seeing each other. I rubbed my face again, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. What are you going to do? Sarah asked. The question hung in the air. I looked toward the hallway one more time. Then I pushed myself away from the wall. I'm going to check something, I said. What? Instead of answering, I started walking slowly toward the bedroom. Every step down the hallway felt heavier than the last. The apartment was completely silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator behind me. My phone was still pressed against my ear, Sarah breathing quietly on the other end of the call. Are you going to wake her up? She asked. I don't know yet, I whispered. When I reached the bedroom door, I stopped. The door was half open. A thin line of light from the hallway stretched across the floor toward the bed. From where I stood, I could see Emily lying under the blankets. Her back was turned toward the door, her hair spread across the pillow. She looked exactly like someone peacefully asleep. For a moment, I felt ridiculous. Maybe Sarah had made a mistake. Maybe this entire situation was built on a misunderstanding. I stepped inside the room quietly. Is she there? Sarah asked softly. Yes, I said. Emily didn't move. I walked closer to the bed, watching her carefully. Her breathing seemed steady. Normal. Just like every other night. She's asleep, I said. Sarah exhaled slowly. Then maybe I really did screw something up, she said. But something still bothered me. I moved closer until I was standing right next to the bed. Emily, I said quietly. No response. I said her name again, a little louder. Still nothing. That wasn't unusual. She had always been a heavy sleeper. But as I stood there, another detail caught my attention. Her phone was on the nightstand. The screen lit up for a second with a notification. I glanced at it without thinking. And then I froze. Sarah, I whispered. What? There's a message on her phone. What does it say? I leaned slightly closer, trying to read the preview without touching the phone. It was from an unknown number. 3 simple words appeared on the screen. Did he believe it? My chest tightened. What does that mean? Sarah asked. I don't know. But the message didn't look like something sent to someone who was asleep in her own bed. It looked like a question, one that expected a quick answer. Maybe it's spam, Sarah said, though her voice didn't sound convinced. Maybe. I stared at Emily again. She still hadn't moved. Can you check the phone? Sarah asked. I don't want to go through her stuff, I said automatically. Under normal circumstances, I'd agree, Sarah replied. But these aren't normal circumstances. She wasn't wrong. Still, touching her phone felt like crossing a line I had never crossed before. Another notification appeared. The screen lit up again. A second message from the same number. You said he wouldn't find out. The words made my stomach drop. I felt a cold wave run down my spine. Sarah, I said slowly. What? There's another message. What does it say? I read it out loud. There was a long pause on the other end of the call. That doesn't sound good, she said quietly. No. My heart was pounding again. The phone screen went dark. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at it. Then I noticed something else. Emily's breathing had changed. It was no longer slow and steady. It was uneven, like someone pretending to be asleep. A realization slowly settled over me. "Sarah," I whispered. "Yes. I don't think she's sleeping." "What?" "I think she's awake." Right on cue, Emily shifted slightly under the blanket. Not enough to fully move, but enough to confirm what I had just realized. She had heard everything. Every word of my conversation. Every question. Every doubt. I stared at her back, my heart racing. "Emily," I said quietly. This time she didn't pretend anymore. She slowly turned over to face me. Her eyes were open, and she looked terrified. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other. Emily's eyes moved from me to the phone in my hand and back again. The fear on her face was obvious now. Not the kind of confusion someone has when they've just been woken up. This was the look of someone who knew exactly what was happening. "You're awake," I said quietly. She didn't answer right away. Finally, she nodded once. "Yeah." Behind me, Sarah was still on the phone. "What's happening?" she asked. "Did she say something?" I didn't look away from Emily. "She's awake." Emily's expression tightened when she heard Sarah's voice coming through the speaker. "You're talking to Sarah?" she asked. Her voice was hoarse, but there was something else in it too. Panic. "Yes," I said. For a moment, she didn't move. Then her eyes slowly shifted toward the phone on the nightstand. She had obviously seen the messages. Or maybe she had already read them earlier. "Emily," I said carefully, "who is Daniel?" The question hung in the air. Her face immediately paled. That reaction told me more than any answer could. I don't know what you're talking about," she said. I let out a quiet breath. "Sarah saw you tonight." Emily froze. "At a bar," I continued. "With a guy." She looked at me, then toward the door, as if her mind was searching for some kind of escape. "You followed me?" she asked suddenly. "I didn't," I said. "Sarah did." Her eyes widened. "You followed me," Emily said, louder this time. From the phone, Sarah spoke. "I didn't plan to. I just saw you there." Emily sat up in bed now, pulling the blanket around herself like a shield. "You had no right," she said. "No right?" I repeated. The words sounded absurd. "You checked into a hotel with another man," I said. Her face went completely still. For a moment, I thought she might deny it again. But then her shoulders slowly dropped. "I can explain," she whispered. "That would be a good start." She looked down at her hands. "You're going to hate me." "I already might," I said quietly. "Just tell the truth." Emily stayed silent for several seconds. Then she finally spoke. "Daniel isn't who you think he is." "That's not reassuring." "He's someone from my past." "What does that mean?" She rubbed her forehead, clearly struggling with what to say. "I knew him before we met." "Okay. But it wasn't just friendship." The words felt heavy. "You dated him," I said. She nodded slowly. "How long?" "A few months." "And then?" "We broke up," she said. "A long time ago." I stared at her. "Then why are you meeting him at bars and hotels now?" Her hands trembled slightly. "Because he contacted me 2 months ago. And at first it was just messages," she said. "He said he wanted to talk. To apologize for how things ended." "Did he?" "Yes." "Then why the secret meetings?" Emily swallowed hard. "Because he threatened me." The sentence caught me completely off guard. "What?" "He said if I didn't meet him, he would tell you something." The room suddenly felt colder. "Tell me what?" Emily hesitated. Her eyes filled with tears. "Something I've been hiding from you." My chest tightened. "What?" She looked straight at me. "Daniel is the reason I moved to this city." I frowned. "You moved here years before we met." "I know. That still doesn't explain anything." Emily took a shaky breath. "Because when I left him, I didn't just break up with him." The silence that followed felt unbearable. "What did you do?" I asked quietly. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "I disappeared." The word hung in the air between us. "Disappeared?" I repeated. Emily nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the blanket in her hands. "I didn't just end the relationship," she said quietly. "I left without telling him. I blocked him everywhere, quit my job, and moved here within a week." I stared at her, trying to understand. "People break up and move all the time," I said. "Why would that make him threaten you years later?" She swallowed hard. "Because of what happened the night before I left." My chest tightened again. "Emily," I said carefully, "what happened?" She hesitated for a long time. Behind me, Sarah was completely silent on the phone now. Finally, Emily spoke. "We had a huge fight," she said. "One of the worst fights I've ever had with anyone." "About what?" "About leaving." You had already planned to leave him? Yes. Why? Emily's hands tightened around the blanket. Because I was scared of him. The answer made my stomach twist. Scared how? He had a temper, she said. At first it was just yelling. Then it started getting worse. He would punch walls, throw things, break stuff in the apartment. Did he ever hurt you? She shook her head slowly. Not directly, but it always felt like he might. I felt anger starting to build in my chest. So you decided to leave? Yes. And he found out. Emily nodded. That night, he came over to my apartment. He was furious. Said I couldn't just walk away after everything we had. Her voice trembled as she continued. He kept yelling, blocking the door when I tried to leave, grabbing my arm. I clenched my jaw. What happened next? I tried to push past him, she said. I just wanted to get out. And he wouldn't move. The room felt completely still. So I shoved him. Her eyes filled with tears again, harder than I meant to. My heart pounded. He stumbled backward, she continued, and hit his head on the edge of the kitchen counter. A cold wave ran through my body. Was he okay? Emily shook her head slowly. He collapsed. I felt my stomach drop. What do you mean collapsed? He was unconscious, she whispered. Blood everywhere. For a moment I couldn't speak. What did you do? I panicked, she said. I thought I had killed him. The words echoed in the room. But you didn't, I said slowly. No. Then what happened? After a minute he started breathing again, she said. But he was still out. You called an ambulance? She shook her head again. I didn't. The silence that followed felt heavy. I was terrified, she said. All I could think about was that no one would believe it was an accident. We had been screaming at each other. The neighbors probably heard everything. So you ran? I said. Emily closed her eyes. Yes. You just left him there? I didn't know what else to do. And you never checked what happened to him? I looked up the local news for weeks, she said. There was nothing. No report of someone dying or anything like that. Eventually, I convinced myself he must have woken up and been fine. My chest felt tight. And then he contacted you 2 months ago. Yes. What did he say? That he remembered everything, she said quietly. And that if I didn't meet him, he'd tell the police what I did. The pieces started falling together in my mind. So you started meeting him. She nodded. At first it was just talking, she said. He said he wanted closure, that he wasn't angry anymore. But tonight, her voice cracked. Tonight he wanted more. I already knew what she meant. That's why you went to the hotel, I said. She nodded again, tears running down her face now. He said if I refused, he would report me. The room went silent. Finally, Sarah spoke from the phone, her voice filled with disbelief. So you cheated on him to keep him quiet? Emily shook her head quickly. No. What do you mean no? I asked. Emily looked up at me, her eyes red and exhausted. I didn't go through with it. My brow furrowed. Sarah said you checked into the hotel. I did, Emily said. But I left. When? Right after we got the key card. My heart skipped. You walked out. Yes. That's impossible, I said. You got home 20 minutes later. Emily nodded slowly. Because I never went upstairs. The room fell silent again. He went to the elevator, she continued. I told him I needed to use the bathroom first. Then I walked straight out of the hotel. And he didn't follow you? I blocked his number the second I got outside. I glanced at the phone on the nightstand again. The messages suddenly made sense. Did he believe it? I said quietly. Emily shook her head. No. Her voice was barely audible now. Because he's been sitting in his car outside our apartment for the last hour. For a moment, none of us moved. Then I looked at Emily. Is he still there? She nodded. Yes. I walked to the window again, carefully pulling the curtain aside. The car was still parked under the streetlight. But this time, the driver's seat was empty. My heart started racing. He's not in the car, I said. Emily stepped closer. What do you mean? The driver's door was open. The engine was off. And the street was quiet. Sarah's voice came through the phone, tense and alert. Call the police now. This time, Emily didn't argue. She nodded. I dialed emergency services while keeping my eyes on the street. Within minutes, we heard sirens in the distance. When the police arrived, they approached the vehicle first. 2 officers walked toward the building entrance while another checked the area. 10 minutes later, one of them knocked on our door. Emily opened it with shaking hands. They asked questions. About the man. About the messages. About the hotel. She answered everything honestly. The officer listened carefully, then nodded. We'll handle this, he said. If he's been threatening you, that changes things. They searched the area but didn't find him nearby. Later that night, they confirmed something that made Emily's knees weaken with relief. There was no warrant for her. No report from years ago. No record of any serious injury tied to her name. Whatever had happened that night, it had never been officially documented. When the officers finally left, the apartment felt different. Quieter. Lighter. Emily sat on the couch, staring at her phone. No new messages appeared. For the first time in months, it stayed silent. She looked up at me. I was ready to keep running, she admitted. But tonight I'm done. I sat beside her. You don't have to run anymore. Outside, the street returned to normal. No car. No waiting figure. Just empty pavement under the lights. Emily leaned her head against my shoulder. The secret that had followed her for years had finally been faced. Not with fear, but with truth. And as the night slowly settled around us, we both understood one thing clearly. It was no longer about hiding. It was about moving forward.